Hey guys, what's up? It's munclesonkey and welcome to perhaps a long-awaited video. Maybe it's long-awaited for you, maybe you flat out don't care, but either way, welcome to it. So today what I'm going to be doing is testing Tier 90 Mage and Range, the 2H versions versus the dual wield versions in an extremely controllable environment where I have as little input on the test as possible so I can't screw it up. So basically my idea here was to use the exact same ability bar, revolution, pretty much the same gear, the same stats, everything is the same between both the Noxious Staff and the Noxious Bow, and then the dual wield versions of those, which are the Seismics and the Ascensions. I will not be testing Tier 90 Melee as much as I'd like to. For one, a shortage of funds, and for two, there is an extremely high chance that the melee thresholds are going to be changed in the way they act soon, so it would be wise to wait until that happens to actually test it out, and maybe that's something I could do in the future. So how exactly is this test going to work? I'm going to kill KBD, which is very popular for testing stuff in Runescape when it comes to damage, and the reason for that is the KBD doesn't have any weird combat mechanics that make you attack at a slower rate or slow down your kill speed or anything like most bosses do. He also has a fairly large amount of health, and he is really easy to kill, so you don't have to like eat food or drink a whole bunch of potions that would slow down your adrenaline gain and your kills. So he is a very, very easy boss to control how the test works. So how exactly does this test work? Basically what I thought is I will use Revolution, so I am actually not controlling the speed at which the abilities are being cast. It's consistent throughout all the weapons. Also, I will be using 3 thresholds per kill. I will be using the most popular probably among the thresholds in terms of damage dealing. So for magic, that is Wild Magic, Asphyxiate, and the Tendrils. And same for range, except you have Rapid Fire, Snapshot, and Tendrils. Also, I used non-DPS armor because in the past there was a discrepancy with how much damage DPS armor gave to 2H Mage and Dual Wield Mage. It was different for some reason. It was a glitch. It has now been fixed, but just in case there's still any remaining discrepancy between the two, I wore armor that did not provide any damage bonus whatsoever. I also used overloads and the turmoil version for the respective combat style for every single kill, so all my boosts and damage extra that I'm getting from armor and stuff is completely consistent as well. I started the kill timer the second my character went into the animation of casting the first ability, and I stopped it the second that KBD's bar reached red. There were a few kills where I got the timer off by just half a second or so, and I discarded those kill times and did not count them, so the kill times should remain very, very consistent with the timing, and that should not be an issue at all. And finally, the last thing I have to kind of warn you guys about is, of course, these weapons are kind of situational, so there are going to be some situations where the 2H is better than the dual wield, or the dual wield is better than the 2H, depending on what you're using them for, what kind of boss you're killing, what type of PVM you're doing. So this test does not tell the whole story, but at the same time, I also wanted to do this test because if you just read the descriptions of the abilities, you can tell pretty clearly, at least from that, what is better. But numbers also don't tell the whole story, which is the reason why I'm doing this test. So hopefully it can provide some insight into exactly what the DPS of these weapons are. But again, it's situational. It's not always going to tell the complete story. So just be aware of that and don't panic based on the results of this test. So first we'll go over magic and we'll go over range next. So the first weapon, I'm going to be doing the 2H weapons first. So that's the Noxious Staff for magic. I did 20 kills of the KBD with the Noxious Staff and timed all of them. I also did 20 kills with all the other methods, so I tried to get a good sample size of kills. Of course, just on the random RNG nature of the kills, if you wanted a really, really good complete number set, you'd probably have to do hundreds. However, 20 kills is going to get you enough of a sample size where you can kind of see some stark differences between the two. So my fastest kill with the Noxious Staff was 31.4 seconds. My slowest kill was 42.5 seconds, which is a really big discrepancy between the two, and this was also by far the most inconsistent weapon out of all of them, which was a little bit surprising because the consistency number, which is the fastest kill minus the slowest kill, so kind of the mode or whatever you want to call it, but that was the highest. So there is 11.2 seconds between the two. So Noxious Staff, kind of what it tended to do is it tended to kill the KBD really fast or really slow. There wasn't really much middle ground. Most of the kills were either low in the 40 seconds or really low in the 30 seconds without much gray area. So that was strange. But the average kill was 35.87 seconds, which is relatively fast. So I was pretty happy with how the Noxious Staff performed, and I was wondering if it would outperform the Seismics because on paper, if you actually read the abilities, the Noxious Staff is a tiny bit better just because Sonic Wave is that tiny bit better than the Concentrated Blast, which is the dual wield alternative for it. So there's nothing for it but to test out the Seismics in the same exact way and see if they do better or if the Noxious Staff is really the way to go. So now we get into the Seismics, and the test for the Seismics was a little bit strange because it was actually a little bit slower than the Noxious Staff. I was telling one of my friends about it, and he was like, well, the reason why Noxious Staff did better than the Seismics is because the Sonic Wave does a little bit more DPS than the Concentrated Blast, but Seismics are still more DPS. I don't fully understand that because that's the only ability change between the two. That's the only thing that's different, is that one ability. So if the Noxious Staff ability is better than the Seismic's ability, wouldn't that mean it's better? I don't know. Again, it's a situational thing, and in some areas of PvM, the Seismics are going to be better, especially if you need access to a shield, so places like Nex or Virago, you're probably better off with Seismics. So getting into the numbers here, the fastest kill with Seismics was 34.8 seconds, which is a couple seconds slower than the fastest Noxious kill. But the slowest kill with the Seismics is also a couple seconds faster than the slowest Noxious kill. So again, the Seismics are a little bit more consistent. The slowest kill is 41.6 seconds. And I could notice throughout all of the KBD kills, almost every single one of these kills was right about 36 or 37 seconds. This was a very, very consistent weapon. Other than a couple outlying kills, which were kind of slow for the most part, the Seismics had a much better consistency rating than the Noxious Staff. Average speed, 36.52 seconds, so not a huge difference between the Noxious Staff. It's only about like 0.7 seconds slower, so again, not a big difference, at least when it comes to just reveling with straight out abilities, but it is interesting how the Noxious Staff is a little bit faster, and I think that's because of the Sonic Wave. Now it's time to get into the ranged test. So again, starting off with the 2H weapon, the Noxious Longbow. So the Noxious Longbow, again, just like the Noxious Staff, it was a little bit more inconsistent than the Ascensions, as you'll soon see, so it's kind of strange. Both of the dual wield weapons for magic and range were a little bit more consistent, a little bit less varied in the kill times than both of the 2Hs, so it's kind of cool that remains consistent. I like seeing consistency, so that's probably the best part of doing tests, is keeping everything consistent and as controlled as possible. So the fastest kill was 30.4 seconds, which is the fastest kill that I killed the KBD with anything. I just hit like crazy. So, you know, again, it's a little bit RNG based there, but again, I do believe that in general, the ranged abilities are going to hit higher than the magic abilities. Magic has its own advantages, such as, you know, the weakness spells where you can debuff stuff, but again, range and all-out DPS in most cases is probably going to beat magic if you don't throw any extra variables into there or any boss weaknesses. And also the slowest kill was 40.9 seconds, so a little less inconsistent than Noxious Staff, but still 10.3 seconds between those two. That was a little bit worrying. The average kill speed was 34.83 seconds, so pretty fast. Faster than both of the magic weapons, so the Noxious Bow did work. And the main thing that I was worried about with the Noxious Bow is it's pretty much a foregone conclusion in the PvM community that the Ascensions are better than the Noxious Bow. And at certain places I can definitely agree with you, because the unload ability, it's a very situational ability. It's not useful very many places, but the places where it is useful, it's really, really good. Like Araxor 4th phase, for example, the unload ability, which is only available to the Ascensions, is amazing. However, it was a foregone conclusion for most people, in most people's minds, I believe, that the Noxious Bow is just going to get out DPS by the Ascensions because of the ability Needle Strike, which, by its description at least, does more damage than Dazing Shot, but that just remains to be seen, right? So, this is where we get into the interesting and also potentially controversial part of the test. The Ascension crossbows, as I said in the Noxious Bow part, are considered better than the Noxious Longbow in terms of all-out DPS by pretty much everyone who's interested in this kind of stuff. However, the Ascensions performed significantly worse than the Noxious Bow did at KBD. Can this be down to RNG and random hits? Yes, it can. However, I also think it's a little bit unlikely that the Noxious Bow outperformed the Ascensions on pretty much every single kill for 20 kills straight. So, does this prove outright that Ascensions are worse than the Noxious Longbow, or that the Noxious Longbow is seriously underrated? No, by no means am I saying that, but I do think what this proves is that you can't just look at the numbers and determine exactly what things are going to do based on that, and Ascensions have been shown to prove better than Noxious Longbow in many places by other people who have tested this kind of stuff, but I do think this deserves some consideration, and maybe the Noxious Longbow should be looked into a little more as being a possible weapon that can be good for PvM, because it is a little bit strange how the Noxious Longbow would just outright outperform the Ascensions. And the one thing about abilities is you can just look at the numbers and say, oh, one ability is better than the other, but you can't always do that and be absolutely certain, because there are some times where abilities have longer animations, or for whatever reason their numbers don't exactly say how much damage they're doing. And for abilities like that, it's really important just to be conscious of you know, sometimes you really need to test this stuff out. So this does need more testing before any sort of solid conclusion can be given, and at the same time, the unloadability that you get from the Ascensions is very, very good. You don't get that from the Noxious Longbow, so that is one major reason why Ascensions are better at a boss like Araxor, because you use that ability and it really helps out the kill. However, I do think it was kind of cool that the Noxious Longbow really held its own versus the Ascensions. I was expecting the Ascensions to perform better, and that just wasn't the case. So that is the results of the test. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully there's not too much of a debate about the results of the test. Again, it's kind of a small sample size, and it really doesn't tell the whole story. Unfortunately, I had no idea the Noxious Longbow was going to do so well. It was the best DPS out of all 4 weapons. I was not expecting that. I was fully expecting the Ascensions to be better, so I really had no idea this would even become a controversy, because it has been for quite a while between the two, and I fully expected the Ascensions to just prove that they were the better weapon, and that didn't turn out to be the case. So hopefully that can be something that can be tested in the future, maybe by me. I don't know how many videos of this type you guys want to see though, so I'm not really sure whether I'm going to do that or not. Unfortunately, on such short notice as today, I can't really fully test them out more. Maybe sometime in the future, if you guys really want to see that, I could do that though. That's about all for this video though. Thank you guys for watching. Again, feel free to debate about this in the comments and tell me how much I am wrong, and I will see you tomorrow with the next video, so farewell.